Welcome to the latest Business of Apps tutorial, which is all about how to create a great app icon for iOS. In this tutorial, we're going to be showing you why an app icon is important and what context it really matters in. We're going to provide tips on how to go about designing a great icon for iOS 7 and above. And I'm going to give some clear examples to help you see the way to success when designing your icon. And just to let you know who I am, I'm George Osborne. I'm the Chief Content Officer of the Business of Apps. I've worked as Head of Editorial Content for MagicSolver.com for 2 years, helping the company launch dozens of apps on a global stage. And I also work as Events Editor for Pod Game Biz, and I run my own mobile-focused blog at mobilemavericks.eu. But just to let you know, first of all, why the app icon matters. Essentially, you've got to think about it in terms of the App Store marketing mix, and when it comes to that mix, the app icon is quite an important element of it. There's 4 major things that are going to be either part of iOS now or are going to be part of iOS when it comes to looking at conversion assets that you can create for your app. There's the icon, the screenshots, the description, and videos coming soon to it. And as you can see, this is on the iPad. Even on a medium design that is perfectly designed for reading and things like that, the description is a lot less important than the screenshots and the icon. And so the icon becomes this really important part of the marketing mix. It becomes something that helps people to look at an app, identify whether they want it or not, and ultimately choose whether or not to download it. And there's some major tips that I think we've got for designing a good icon that can help you to make sure you make the most out of this important asset. The first is about understanding the context. So we looked at it briefly there, but it's really important to understand the exact context of where people are going to see your icon and what information is going to come with it to make sure that you understand exactly what you've got to be getting across to a user in a smaller space that's basically not much larger than a postage stamp. You've then got to think about creating character, so you need to basically give it a sense of character to help it flourish, to represent your brand, and to help people think about exactly what your app is all about, and so that when someone sees the icon, that they can get a quick and easy message about whether or not it's the right app for them. And lastly, we just need you to think about following best practice. So we need to make sure that you're looking at the best ways that you can try and keep yourself on trend to make sure that your app is looking fresh, exciting, and it doesn't look out of place on the user's device. But the first thing we're going to look at quickly is the app icon context. So we looked at it briefly on the iPad, but we're going to look at it in a bit more detail on the iPhone. And as you can see, the app icon appears probably in 3 major places: in the search results, in the charts and the featured areas, and on the home screen itself. And essentially what you can see with this is that in each of these situations, it has an important role to play. Within search, while the screenshot is probably the dominant asset, the icon is one of the major additional pieces of information at the top, basically alongside the app name, the developer name, the reviews, and any other information that's provided that helps people decide whether or not an app looks right for them. In terms of the charts and in terms of the featured store, the app icon essentially acts as your kind of box art. It's the kind of thing that will get people looking at it and whether or not they want to pick it up. And in terms of how it looks, you don't get to see the screenshot or the descriptions until you've clicked through it. So particularly in the charts or in the featured area, the app icon is the dominant show in town. And then in the last location on the home screen, it's got to compete and vie with a number of other apps. And I think what you've got to be thinking about is a user's going to have on their device the apps that they really want, the apps that they're interested in, and the apps that they want to keep on using. And so the question has to be, is my app icon going to be able to vie in terms of the person's mind when they're looking at the device? Is it going to be able to vie for attention compared to the other things that they're looking at? And I guess that's what you've got to be thinking about. But I mean, one important thing to mention is that although you're going to have these situations where the icon's got to communicate quite a lot visually, as you can see in each of these situations, you can see a little bit of information with it. So in particular, you can see the app name alongside it. So when you're designing your icon, you've got to think about how you can create this synergy between your app name and the title of your app, as well as basically the character or the icon that you just choose to design it around anyway. And in particular, creating synergy, I think, really means about bringing some character to your icon. And the reason why you need to do that is that characters, or just a character in general, they create recognition for your app. So when combined with your broader company brand, broader company marketing strategy, or just the product itself that you're trying to do, a really good character can really instantly sell strengths and really instantly sell the kind of values to help people understand that this is something that they want to download, because ultimately icons can only communicate a tiny amount of information. So you need something that will shortcut that. You need something that when people look at it, that it's going to essentially circumvent that. And a character creates a mental shortcut for users. Whether we're talking about the Red Bird in Angry Birds or whether we're talking about Mario for the Nintendo things, I think gaming has got a real strong capture on how those important characters can really help to basically create a rapid attachment. When someone sees that face, they're instantly thinking about emotions that they had previously, they're thinking about experiences, and they're positive. And I think that's what you've got to be thinking, is that you've got to be thinking, let's use some character to create a positive experience that ties in with what the app is about, and that convinces the user that they want to interact with it. And on the right-hand side, we've got a few examples of that. So in the top two positions, we've got two games. On the left, we've got Ridiculous Fishing's Billy, and he basically acts as the mascot for the game. In the game, if you haven't played it, it's a little action game where you go fishing, and then once you've caught your haul, your fish get thrown up into the air and you have to shoot them for points. It's very crazy and anarchic little game, but Billy is a crazy and anarchic character. He's got his own social network, he's got a variety of things. He can go fishing in all sorts of hats, and when he goes fishing in a strange hat, everyone comments on it. And so what happens is that someone who maybe is sort of quite intrigued by the idea or have heard about the success of Ridiculous Fishing and the awards it has won will see that app icon on the store and decide that that's something they want to click on. And then once they've gone out and they've played the game, it's going to be one of those things that they'll return, and they'll see that icon and see that attachment to the character and go, I want to continue playing that. It's the same thing for the other icon in that row, which is for Blue Toad Murder Files, or just Murder Files now, which is essentially an Agatha Christie meets Professor Layton style puzzle game. Essentially, you solve these very simple, basic mental puzzles to go out and solve a crime. And as you can see from this character, it really resonates with the values within the game. So obviously, you can see with the little mic, with the magnifying glass, you can see the search for clues. There's this idea that this is a murder mystery. But the character herself, I think, really channels the whole Agatha Christie sort of feel, the vibe of this British quirky adventure. And it very much plays on that very British sense of adventure. And once you see that and you get this quirky sense that you're exploring a British town, solving these murder mysteries by basically going out and solving these little puzzles, when you see the icon again on the home screen, you really recognise what that game's all about. But beyond that, below, we've got two corporate identities. I think these corporate and business identities are important for showing you different tactics you might want to pursue if you're a business, say, who is looking to try and get there more business focused, or just an app that maybe is focused more on consumers without actually being entertainment or gaming directly. So on the left hand side, a number of you will probably recognise that this is Microsoft's icon. And I think it shows you the Microsoft Office icon since Microsoft's rebrand, I think, has become a lot more memorable, and it's something that people are a lot more identifying with, and they're seeing when they boot up the computer, when they boot up their laptop, when they boot up their iPad. They're starting to get this brand recognition. And so Microsoft has built this very flat design that has arguably inspired things like iOS 8 and is very, very memorable. So when you see that, I think you're very instantly and very quickly realising that this is basically a Microsoft product, and it's something that comes along with all of the baggage with it. So whether that's good or bad, obviously, that depends on your own experience with Office, but it definitely communicates that this is a Microsoft product. And on the right-hand side, you have the Duolingo owl. So Duolingo is a little app that helps you learn languages, and essentially, this little owl is your companion. He goes through, he sets you challenges, he gives you badges, etc., etc. And I think his strength is really about when you're downloading the app and using it for the first time, you won't necessarily recognise that this is what this app's about. You might have to learn about it, you might have to go in and work it out, but once you go out, that owl is a constant companion to your experience, and because he's that constant companion, when you see him on the home screen, it's going to help you reinforce that idea that this is Duolingo, and it helps to reinforce the brand, and when he comes back, it's a really important way of basically drawing you back into the app. So character is this great way of creating these mental shortcuts that will help people click, or in this case, tap, of course. But beyond that, there's some other best practice for icons. So you need to be thinking about a few other things as well when you're designing an app. The first one, an app icon. The first one is just following the main design trends. Of course, flat design is in and skeuomorphism is out. And as you can see, those are the two designs of YouTube's app. So what Google have obviously done and what YouTube have obviously done is decided that they need to change their design to fit in with what's going on. And while it might be tempting to try and stand out a little bit from the crowd, and of course it's one of the things you should be trying to do with an app icon, standing out from the crowd too much and not fitting in with conventions as a whole It's a way to make your app look really out of place on the home screen and to jar. And it's the kind of thing that if someone likes an app and it jars a bit, they might put it into a folder as opposed to keeping it on the home screen. And so what you need to do is you need your app to feel as seamless and deeply integrated into the phone as most other experiences on a handset are becoming. But beyond that, there's a few other little rules to think about as well. Like my main rule would be to avoid text on the icon. While I like the Transport Tycoon app, and I think in terms of the visual assets, it's actually pretty close to the City Builder app that's next to it. I think the issue is that the name of the app is alongside it in all of its other contexts. As we discussed when we were looking at the charts and the search and the home screen, the name of the app is there. And so the question is, what does this do except for take away a bit more visual assets? I mean, imagine moving that away and being able to slightly increase the size of the helicopter, slightly increase the size of the plane, and maybe show a bit more of the bridge or bring the vehicles a bit closer to the front or whatever. I think it could have been a bit more visually arresting. I think it could have been a really good app icon as opposed to a good one. And I think simply the whole issue about text just fills into the ultimate rule about apps, is that you need to keep things simple, understandable, and clear of clutter. I mean, if you look at the Breaking Bad Name Maker app, you can see that that's cluttered, it's busy, it doesn't look very good. It looks like what I think it ultimately is, which is a second-rate product. It's something that's really tacking on to the success of something else rather than defining success itself. On the other hand, you have the incredibly simple and the very nicely designed icon for the National Rail Inquiries. And while I'm not sure about whether this symbol is universally held across the world, in the UK that's very clearly a symbol for the rail, and it's something that people will understand whether they're looking at it in terms of on the home screen or whether they're searching for an app that will help them discover the National Rail Inquiries thing. This is the icon that will do it, and it's so simple, so clear, and it takes advantage of things like the character and the fact that the name of the app is going to be associated with the icon in other places. And I think it ultimately creates this really strong resonance. And I think, I would sort of say that if you were thinking about designing an app icon and you were thinking about it in one way, imagine that you're looking at a watch, and imagine you're trying to get hold of information by looking at a watch. What's the thing you need to do? You need to look at it and instantly be able to assimilate some information. You need to look at it and go, I can instantly tell the time off that. An app icon, you've got to be thinking about the same principle. It's got to be something that's so simple and so easy, which is obviously very difficult to get at, that it will be something that people are going to be going, that is what I need, and that is what I'm going to use. So when designing your app icon, what I really recommend you do is that you understand it always comes in, it's an important part of the app marketing mix, but it always comes with some text usually that can help describe what the app is about, that it needs to have some character, it needs to have some sort of a hook that people will be able to instantly shortcut and explain what that app is about, and it needs to make sure that it's on trend and just simple and understandable to make sure that it really communicates as much information as possible. And I think that's really it for now. If you've got any more questions, you can get in touch with us by emailing hello@businessofapps.com or contacting us on Twitter at businessofapps. You can also have a quick look at our website, which is businessofapps.com, where we have a number of courses, webinars, and other posts that will help you learn about the business of marketing mobile apps. But that's it for this app icon tutorial. Thank you very much for joining us, and I hope that you have a great time doing whatever you want to do.